Avengers Infinity War is coming so soon and I cannot wait. So I wanted to go back and look specifically at the first two Avengers movies. Not all of the MCU movies, because that would take much longer. I probably would have had to start about last year. Just the first two Avengers movies, because I have very strong opinions about both of them that I wanted to share. So let's start with the first one, 2012's The Avengers, written and directed by Joss Whedon and starred Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner, Tom Hiddleston, Clark Gregg, Kobe Smulders, with Stellan Skarsgård and Samuel L. Jackson. It came out on April 25th here in Australia. It was the first movie that I'd ever seen on the day in cinemas. I was so intensely excited. Seeing all the other Marvel movies leading up to it, just really wanted to see how they could put Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and Hulk in the same movie. Something that everyone thought was absolutely insane. It seemed very unlikely I would ever see something like this ever happen. But I went to go see it on April 25th, and honestly, my 16-year-old brain was completely blown apart. I was absolutely astounded with how much I truly loved this film. And guess what? I still love it. 6 years later, I've seen it countless times, but every single time I watch it, I still feel incredibly joyful. I feel exhilarated. This movie, it changed me. It defined a part of me that is still there, thankfully. It changed the world, in fact. It changed for the better, because then we got the rest of the MCU. It's also given more chances to other superhero movies and to other people to go out and make their films, because they think, wow, the Avengers can do so many different things that we never thought possible. But it also changed things for the worse, because a lot of studios took the wrong lesson, like they always do, in that, oh yes, cinematic universes are the way forward. We've had the Amazing Spider-Man universe, the DCEU, the Dark Universe. Not a single one of them has worked out. In fact, the DCEU especially is now crumbling into, okay, why don't we just do separate stories? Because guess what? Marvel might be the only people who are able to do this whole connected universe thing well. And there's a reason for that. It is the Avengers. The Avengers showed us how you can make a massive tentpole summer blockbuster that can also be smart, that can be completely unique in a lot of different ways. Sure, it does the same things that you would expect a blockbuster to do. There's massive action, there's 3 separate acts, yes, there's a sky portal at the end, and it does set up for other sequels. But I see the Avengers the same way that I see Jurassic Park, the way that people saw Jurassic Park back in the 90s. It was a huge blockbuster, the highest grossing movie of all time at that point. It was also really smart. It was completely unique. It used effects well. It didn't overdo them. It still cared about characters, and that's exactly what the Avengers does for me. This is my Star Wars for people who were there when Star Wars came out, or E.T., or Jurassic Park. The Avengers is that for me. It changed how I see movies. And that's thanks to Joss Whedon. He came on board with this project and wanted to make sure that it could actually deliver what comic book fans had always wanted. And he did that. The script for this movie is almost perfect. The dialogue that we have between all of these characters in the first 30 minutes alone sets up every single thing that would become truly important for the rest of the movie going forward. Who Tony Stark is, the interaction between Black Widow and Hulk, Nick Fury and Captain America, Loki being the massive villain of this whole thing. Thor comes in and he has that relationship with his brother. Everything in the first third of this movie is perfect, and it only builds up from there. It is a great example of what Dan Murrell calls in his Jurassic Park, Jurassic World comparison video, because storytelling. Everything that happens is because of this, is because of this, is because of things. It's all interconnected. You cannot take any piece of it out, because then the whole thing would unravel. It is amazing storytelling, and that is what Joss Whedon knew how to do. He had been already a showrunner on so many great shows and directed and wrote so many wonderful stories for things that he's created. He knows how to work in every character under this massive sort of story, but still make it feel emotionally relatable. There are specific dialogue scenes or the way that characters will interact with each other, and then we have Alan Silvestri's score underline that. There are certain action sequences. All of those things still give me chills to this very day. I still think that Alan Silvestri's score is possibly one of the best of all time. I can hum it to you right now, but I'm not going to do that because it's going to take up too much time. It is so exhilarating, it's so soaring. And then the movie keeps going on. We have more dialogue scenes that are really important and are actually really tense, and it keeps building up, The wire keeps getting tighter and tighter and tighter. Joss Whedon starts to create this movie to be more and more and more, build everything up, and then finally, after all that tension, after all those incredible exchanges between everybody, particularly Loki interacting with Black Widow, holy shit, Tom Hiddleston is absolutely perfect in that moment. Everything builds up until finally we are able to let go. We are able to be released into this absolutely incredible, truly spectacular finale. One of the best that I have ever seen in my life. Every single action beat, every plot point, every plot device, every character, everything that happens in those final 35 minutes is perfect. Even the few moments that start to build up just before then, the Iron Man Mark 7 deployment scene alone, it always just gets me so pumped. And then it finally hits into the 360 shots and the monsters emerging from the portal. And we are just given such beautiful action. Everything that happens in this climax is perfect, especially that tracking shot that goes from Black Widow to Iron Man flying down to the bridge, fusion shot off of Captain America's bridge. He flies back up, Hawkeye shoots a couple of jump ships, one crashes into the big space whale, and Hulk and Thor are beating up other aliens on top of it. Hulk rips a shard off, stabs it into the monster, Thor hits it in, boom. That whole one sequence, it melted my brain back in 2012, and it still almost gives me tears to this day. The Avengers is not entirely perfect. There are a few things after countless times that I've watched this movie that kind of stand out. Hawkeye is kind of underused. I don't think he should have been brainwashed for like half the movie. When he comes in and starts to fight for the Avengers, he's fantastic. There are also a couple of movements of the camera by director of photography Seamus McGarvey. A lot of the cinematography is great. I love the aspect ratio. It feels huge, like the whole movie is about to burst out of the screen. But there are a couple of movements that he chooses, some Dutch angles or pans to like mirrors, I don't think is entirely necessary and feels kind of flashy. And there's also one scene which really could have been done better between Thor and Loki just before the big action climax. It's just not really that good. It's shot really badly. It feels very choppy. It's just a lot of people moving their arms and lots of and punching sounds. You don't really get a good idea of what's going on. Those are the tiny little nitpicks that I have with an absolutely amazing movie that changed my mind. And actually, I will say definitively, and you can change my mind if you want to, but I still think to this day that The Avengers is the best summer blockbuster of the 21st century. That's vodka. So many of the jokes still make me laugh, even though I've seen them dozens of times. The action still excites me so much, still sends me back to being a kid. The performances from pretty much all the actors are fantastic. These visual effects, the production design, Alan Silvestri's score, how everything fits together in each individual act. All of that lands so well. Joss Whedon kind of perfected how to actually make your movie under this blockbuster sort of genre, how to form up a third act that still gives you some smart ideas, that still gives you interesting dialogue, that still feels intelligent, still feels intellectual. It never, ever dumbs anything down to you. The Avengers is still my favorite Marvel movie of all time. I'm hoping that Infinity War can match up to that, but those are really lofty expectations. I will still always hold a special place in my heart for the Avengers. It changed my life. Marvel wanted this to be their crowning achievement, and they succeeded. They gave us characters, whether they be simple humans or they might be gods from beyond the stars. They all feel like real heroes. And that is incredibly inspiring. It still to this day gets me deep inside. I will always love watching the Avengers. And of course, I will say that the Avengers is an
A+++. Cool. Cool.
So the Avengers, have you seen it? Have you not seen it? What did you think about this review? Let me know in the comments below. I'm going to have a review for Avengers Age of Ultron in the next coming days, and next week I'm seeing Infinity War like the rest of the world, so get excited for that. And if you want more Mr. Movies, click the channel link coming up right here, and thanks for watching.